The tank role is arguably one of, if not the most impactful of all the roles, since you are the one creating space for your team, denying space, but also creating the plays to get the victory. But of course, we all have situations where we just do too many things, and that ends up costing us the game more than it should. So in this video, we're going to go over 3 things to stop doing as a tank main in Overwatch 2. Let's get straight to it. All that being said, if you want to see more educational content like this, then as always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get straight to the first point. The first thing to stop doing as a tank is to stop being overly aggressive in your plays. These are moments where you are too greedy, you go way beyond the safe point of your team to where your healers don't have the line of sight to heal you, your DPS don't have enough opportunities to follow up on your aggression, and as a result, you end up inting and costing your team the game or the round or the control point. So trying to make all these crazy plays just because you feel like it's the best thing to do in that moment, a lot of times you gotta just slow down and you have to have discipline. One of the greatest traits of a really strong tank player is just having the discipline to hold on to that gratification and just look at the situation and ask yourself if whether or not this aggression is going to pay off, or is it going to eventually create less momentum for my team. So the best way to solve that problem is to just pay attention to your surroundings. Learn to know where your teammates are in relation to you. So therefore, if you do plan on being aggressive and pushing W, then you want to make sure that your teammates are there alongside you, most notably your healers, to follow up on damage and healing. So therefore, you can stay in the game longer, because ultimately the best way to win games with tank is to live. That's your biggest goal. Sure, you want to be creating space, you want to be denying space, you want to be holding space, but if you can do all of that while surviving, then you'll ultimately win more games, and as a result, you become a greater player. So that being said, let's go on to the second point. Now, if you thought being overly aggressive and inting was bad, wasting cooldowns is perhaps just as bad, if not worse, because without your cooldowns, it doesn't matter what you do, you're just going to straight up put yourself in a bad spot, and it's going to be hard to climb out of it. So you got to stop wasting your cooldowns when you are in a position that is disadvantageous for you and your team. A good example is, let's say you are being aggressive. Let's say you're trying to push an enemy and you're Zarya and you wasted both your bubbles, and yet you're still pushing an enemy team in spite of the fact that you have no more bubbles or resource to help yourself, or at the very least back up enough to where your healers can find you. So wasting your cooldowns, wasting important necessities can ultimately be the downfall of you and your team. And so you need to be extremely cautious and extremely aware of when to use your cooldowns, why you're using the cooldowns, how to use them, how to utilize them more correctly, and just more importantly, just being consistent with how to utilize them. Because you don't want to put yourself at risk by going in for a play and then not realizing that you don't have your cooldowns ready because you wasted it on the previous play, where now you're waiting on like a 14-second cooldown. Let's say you use Junker Queen and you rushed in with your shout, and now you're on a 14-second cooldown, but now you're in the fight and you have nothing to get yourself out of the fight because you have to wait 14 seconds and your healers are not there. And I'm sure you get the point now, right? So stop wasting cooldowns. This is perhaps one of the most integral points to consider, because it's really the difference between you winning a fight and you losing a fight, because you just don't have your cooldowns ready to sustain yourself and survive, but to also be the leader for your team and create the space necessary to win. So let that be a reminder, let that sink in. All of us, regardless of our rank, have done this many times where we go into a fight, we waste cooldowns thinking that, well, we have the chance, but then you don't pay attention to the right hand side of the screen and you end up inting and failing along the way. So that being said, let's move on to the third point. So if being overly aggressive and inting was bad, then being overly passive and not contributing to your team's dominance and aggression is just as bad, if not worse, because the whole objective of a tank is to be aggressive, is to create space, but not too much aggression, but also not too much passivity. You need to be able to establish some balance in order to really be more consistent. And by passive, I'll give you an example. Let's say you're on a push map and you've just won a fight and you are the tank, and what do? You stand there AFK waiting for the enemy team to come back and re-engage on the fight. That is something you need to kind of change. You need to be the aggressor, because again, you want to be able to create space. So the moment you win a fight on a push map, keep going forward knowing that you have your cooldowns, so you're able to at least escape and come back if need be, but you want to be creating enough space to where you still have control of the robot and your teammates can then follow up with you as you're continuing to maintain control. So don't just sit on the point, don't just sit on the payload, don't just sit on the robot expecting the fight to come to you. Sure, there are going to be moments where you do want that to happen, but in a lot of cases, you still want to have the space created, and therefore by giving up more space, or at least by allowing more space, you're going to therefore waste the enemy's time, because time is on their side, and that's going to force the enemy to maybe make some poor decisions and therefore give your team the advantage to make the right decisions. So all that being said, hopefully these 3 quick tips will help you and remind you to stop doing certain things when you're playing tank, because all these things, when you stop doing them and you become more consistently aware of what it is you're doing, you'll become so much more of a threat on the field, and you're going to win more of your team games. And that's what really matters the most. So all that being said, thank you so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed the content, once again, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and look forward to the next video. Take care and have a good one, you warriors. Peace.